David Eby's approach is saying that the private sector has no role in housing. Well, wait a second here. Government does not have the money to deal with housing.
All right, I wanted to comment on a recent interview with hopefully the next Premier of BC, John Rustad, and I wanted to compare and contrast his viewpoints with our current Premier, David Eby. Also touch a little bit on the federal politics as it pertains to housing here. So first of all, starting with Premier Eby, he says here, pretty controversial statement, that the private sector really has no place in housing in BC here, which that's fairly controversial. I don't know who he thinks built this city. This whole Vancouver and the whole of BC was built by private developers here. Now I guess he thinks that the government's going to step in and build housing here. And he's aligned with Mr. Trudeau on this. These guys are like two peas in a pod. Recently, the federal government announced this, that they're going to be getting into the business of the condo business, I guess, but it's going to be leasehold. They're going to retain ownership, government control, and then they're going to lease it to the end user. So you're basically going to be renting now from the government, which I'm not a huge proponent of. I think you guys should own your home. It opens up so many opportunities down the road, building equity, investing in the stock market. But that's the plan with these guys. So this clip of Rustad really resonated with me.
David Eby's approach is saying that the private sector has no role in housing. Well, wait a second here. Government does not have the money to deal with housing. I mean, he's completely unrealistic, and it's just his socialistic perspective that he thinks government should be running everything. And he's an authoritarian to boot. I mean, 2 generations ago, we would have called that a communist, but most people don't think about that terms anymore. But he's a hardcore socialist. He wants government to have their fingers in anything and everything that's happening. My perspective is we have become so restrictive and so problematic that investors, people that, whether it's mom and pop that want to build an extra unit, or whether it is developer that wants to put in 1,000 units of housing, they are not looking at working in British Columbia. They're looking at leaving British Columbia. Housing starts, for example, in this province are in decline. They're not increasing, even though we have a massive shortage in terms of housing. So we need to be looking at how do we change that scenario? How do we drive the investment that's needed to create the housing?
He talks in this interview about how we really need to galvanize the free market enterprise system and build the homes we need. Very much in alignment with Pierre Poilievre on this, myself as well. I've been on a tangent about this for a long time. We need, according to the CMHC, an additional 3.5 million new homes built in Canada by 2030. And the situation is probably most acute here in BC. We just have a massive housing shortage here. And the only way you're going to get that built, government is not going to do it. It's not realistic. But when I talk to the NDP supporters, and I do talk to people on the left, they tend to be angry, I find, at what the financialization of housing. The greedy developers, the investors, the speculators, the real estate industry, we've all conspired here to pump up the housing prices. Now, this is absolutely ridiculous. First of all, the development industry is the one that's going to build the homes. Okay, forget about government building. It's a pipe dream. Okay, you need these private developers, and even if the federal government wants to get involved in this, they're still going to be contracting the work out to these developers. Investors are providing rental stock. Now, I know a lot of tenants are NDP supporters. They want the government to protect them. And of course, the problem though is now all of the rules favor the tenant over the landlord. Landlords' property rights have been expropriated. We can't raise rents to cover costs, even though insurance, premiums, strata fees, mortgage payments, it's all gone sky high. And a lot of investors have actually exited the business. I know some landlords that exited ahead of that increase to the capital gains inclusion rate. So I've said many times before, don't bite the hand that feeds you here. You need these landlords. And of course, this is just going to compound the problem, because we're going to have less and less private landlords, less investors, and you're going to have no rental stock. It's exactly what's happened here. The vacancy rate is virtually zero.
We have to address the speculation. We have to address people that are buying up homes and converting them into hotel rooms through Airbnb or leaving them vacant as investments and all those other pieces. And the thing that is surprising to me is in the housing discussion we're having politically is I hear from the other parties, well, we're not going to do this and we're not going to do that. We're not going to restrict Airbnbs. We're not going to do the speculation vacancy tax.
Speculators are driving up the prices. Well, I've gone on tirades about this before. Speculation does not drive the market. The market sees the investors, the speculators, they see that there's a housing shortage, and that's when they get in. But listen, speculation, if I'm speculating on a pre-sale condo, okay, remember these developers need to typically be pre-sold about 60 to 70% before you even get shovels in the ground, before you can even get construction financing. So as a speculator, I'm actually financing new construction in a heavily constrained market. So we actually need more speculation, not less. Finally, the realtors like myself, we do not control the prices. There's nothing I can do to drive up or drive down home prices. We're here to facilitate transactions, that's it. But we've tried taxing and regulating the market into submission. 9 years of Trudeau and the Liberals, 6 years, I believe, of under the NDP in this province. I think it's time to ask ourselves, have things gotten easier? Has housing become more affordable, or have things become much more challenging? I personally think the latter. But that's what happens. When you have a socialist government, it drives away capital. And I know a lot of NDP voters don't really care about that. Good riddance, let the investors leave. But they don't understand how free market economies work. They're in la-la land here. They don't understand how the real world works. You drive investment capital away. It's not good. Recent change, though, here. So the Conservatives' core principles they've been running on, federally and in the province here, axing the carbon tax, which needs to happen. The Canadian economy will absolutely buckle under this carbon tax because it increased the costs all the way along the supply chain. They've been dead set against decriminalization, and they've been actually, John Rustad has been a big proponent of involuntary treatment, where look, if you have somebody who is a danger to themselves and others, there should be involuntary treatment, and I absolutely agree with that. Now, of course, the NDP, David Eby, you got to know who this guy is. This was the lawyer for Pivot Legal Society. He thinks that drug addicts have more rights than you do as a taxpayer. Opioid vending machines, going online and having your crack pipes delivered. This is the kind of thing that this liberal NDP coalition has been supportive of. Now they're reversing, they're flip-flopping. Let's just call a spade here. They're flip-flopping they're saying now we're going to axe the tax, we're going to end decriminalization, we're going to end this whole crazy socialist science experiment with opioid vending machines on every block. They're completely flip-flopping because they know they're in trouble now. And it does look like, on a more positive note, we are going to see a change here. I think we're going to see a blue wave and a conservative government, not only federally, but maybe even provincially, which would be phenomenal. And I'm a big I like this guy, John Rustad. I think he's the guy for the job. But you want to know what social housing looks like, government housing, government subsidized housing. Drive along Main and Terminal. There's a temporary modular housing complex there. There's a battery of these social housing complexes. They look like hell. It's an absolute eyesore. That's the type of product that government's going to build. They're going to create urban slums in our cities. I'm fine with social housing, but go build it in Kitimat. Build it somewhere where don't build it on prime waterfront in Cole Harbour or the West End or Yaletown or Falls Creek Olympic Village, where new condos are selling for $2,000 a square foot. It doesn't make any sense. You need to do it where it's cost effective. On Main and Terminal there, they should put a nice market condo. They should have, and maybe have a social component for firefighters and first responders. I'd be fine with that. But that is a prime location right on SkyTrain there. Unreal. But getting back to David Eby, of course, the private sector has no place, and we're going to have government is going to build all the housing. Don't buy it. It's a pipe dream. The NDP needs to get the boot. This liberal NDP coalition has to come to an end, and they got to get the boot. We need a conservative government in this country, in this province, in my opinion anyway. But they're not going to be building, the government is not going to build you a home. And if they do, it's not going to be affordable by any means. I'm Jay Coupar. Feel free to comment below or subscribe. Hit that green icon if you want a quick evaluation on your property, and I'll see you in the next video.